Hi, I'm Dave Hilgendorf. I'm here with Evan Dawson from Third Option. We met at Promise Keepers, and I asked him if he would let me talk to him about his ministry. So let's just get started. Can you start, Evan, by telling me a little bit about who you are, how you got involved with this ministry, and what your role is in the ministry?
Sure. Evan Dawson, Third Option Men. And Third Option, there's three options. Every guy that follows Christ, we're not robots once we start following him. We still can choose three options every single day, sometimes on a minute-by-minute basis. Number one, option one, we can live for ourselves. We can do anything that feels good to us, whatever, just go for that pleasure. Option two, we can live for worldly gain. We can climb the corporate ladder, just focus on things, outward. So we got two options. We can live for ourselves, we can live for the world. Option three, which is the third option, is live for God. And we do that by meeting in small groups with men, just being real with one another.
Cool.
And the first small group I ever went to, a guy named Billy invited me to a coffee house on Tuesdays at 6 a.m. And first he said, hey, what do you do Tuesday morning? I said, well, what time? He said, 6 a.m. I was like, dude, I sleep. That's, I'm not getting up that early. And he's like, well, if you're ever up that early, just go ahead and come on. And I just meet with guys. We just talk about life, simple. He didn't put it across as this is a men's ministry. This is just meeting. I'm like, that's nice, buddy. But I thought there's no way I'm getting up that early. I can't explain what happened, but the following Tuesday morning at 5 a.m., I wake up. I'm just wired. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, what's happening? Like, is it an earthquake? Something. I get out of bed, and I'm like, this is the strangest thing. And I'm like, it's Tuesday morning. I was like, maybe I'll just try out that guy's little thing. I'll go to the coffee shop and meet him. So I go there, and there's 4 other guys, and we sit there. We start talking about life. I've never seen a group of guys. Some guys, they'll shoot the breeze, whatever. These guys were just talking about their life in the most transparent way I've ever heard. Talking about their struggles, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything. And afterwards, I went up to Billy, and I'm like, thank you so much for inviting me. I said, this was awesome. I'd love to come back next week. And he's like, Evan, I don't know what happened. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I've never had more than one guy meet me here. I've been doing this for months, and today everybody met. And several years later now, that group still meeting down in Sarasota, Florida. Just amazing what God has done. And from that group, small groups have just started organically forming. Guys saw what we had. Something that, I don't know if this would be a question that you asked, but what sets us apart is exclusivity. We actually get to a point, we have a book, it's called War Room. It's a combat guide to spirit-led men's ministry. And the spirit-led part is every group is going to be different. The dynamics are different. The guys come from different walks of life. And at a certain point, we're not an open door ministry. We're not a revolving door. We're open, but we're not revolving. Like, we don't just keep adding guys, get this thing big. That's not what we're about. We're about small. Go small or stay home. And we just keep small groups, and we do it. And guys are like, well, how can you turn people away from, small group discipleship? That's not, Christ-like. And I'm like, really? What did he do? Look in the Bible. He had they would go to these huge, like Promise Keeper like events like we're at now.
Yeah.
He would go to these huge events and preach, and guys would come up to him, oh man, I'm so into what you just said, like, let me follow you to the next village. And what did he say? He said, no, go back to your town and tell them what I've taught you here. But he kept that same group of 12 with him because it built that level of intimacy. They had that trust level. They were doing life together. And that's what we promote. That's what we want to do, because that's where the true accountability comes into place.
That sounds great. I wanted to reference a few things I read in your book. First is right in the introduction. It says, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Establishing an effective men's ministry is a grueling endeavor. It begins and ends with prayer, and the middle is filled with blood, guts, bits of bone, and more prayer. If hearing men cuss or watching them break down in tears makes you extremely uncomfortable, you may not be cut out for this line of work. It's pretty intense.
Yeah. You're seeing the edited version of that. I won't even say what the original version was, the first sentence. Through much prayer, we edited it down to what you have, which is still kind of, gritty and raw, but that's what we're about. Getting into the lives of men, really helping them stay accountable, with the things they struggle with, is messy. It's always going to be messy. It's going to be real. The things that are taking men out in droves right now, the things that the enemy is doing, the porn, the addictions, that stuff's not pretty. There's no way around it. It's the most ugly crap you can think of, and that's what we have to get to the surface for some of these guys so they can get past it and live the lives that God wants them to live. So in our groups, there's going to be guys who are going to cuss. There's going to be guys that when you hit that nerve, maybe they had, daddy issues. That's a huge thing. Their dad never told them they loved them or so. You hit that, and eventually, and it's just geyser stuff, snot, it's not pretty. There's no way around it. If you can't handle that stuff, then, go sit on a pew on Sundays. The rest of the week, live your life. Your comfortable, non-effective life. That's not what we're about, and that's not what we feel Christ wants us to be about.
Sounds good, and I hear what you're saying. And sometimes we don't want to talk about it in those terms, but it's reality, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is the focus on the military that comes up through your book and the different analogies that you meant. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. We get this question a lot. Just almost accidental. We feel it's just kind of where God has led us. Mm-hmm. But our imagery, a lot of analogies we use, metaphors, it's very military-esque. I mean, it's just, our book is divided into sections. It's boot camp, foxholes. We have little grenades with, key phrases that we want you to remember. I mean, there's no way around it. The book's called War Room, but we felt that's what God wanted us to call it. So, we're not going to argue with them. And in the Bible, there's so many verses, so much scripture talks about how God is a warrior. There's going to be an end battle. Good thing is we know who wins it, but it's going to be bloody. It's going to be crazy. I mean, I'm actually looking forward to seeing it because I love movies like Saving Private Ryan, Braveheart, Gladiator. I think guys can, they can identify with that kind of stuff, that hoorah, of the military. I've never personally been in the military. I support the military like crazy. A lot of my family members in the military. A lot of the guys that write for us are in the military. We had a fighter pilot just, did an article last week. But, those images, they speak to us because in the spiritual realm, we like to consider ourselves the most elite fighting force that is in the world today, in the spiritual realm. So the only thing we have in reality is military special forces. These guys that are a unit that have learned to live together, to function as a team together, and then when they go, because they are comfortable with one another, they know each other. I mean, they have been trained to think together as a unit, and when they go into uncharted lands and enemy territory, they take it, and they take it better than a bunch of guys that have never met each other. So we do that in our small groups. We get to know each other so that we can eradicate the enemy in each other's lives. But also, the next step we do is we take guys on mission trips. Let's say we talk like this every week for a few months. I'll basically know everything that's going on in your life. I know your struggles. I know what you're dealing with. We'll be praying together. At a certain point, we'll hit a level of comfort that is almost a bad thing. So we take guys and we rip them out of their comfort zones. We take them on man hikes. We take them on mission trips. And when we get over into the other countries, we are now a unit. In the spiritual realm, we are that fighting force that there are guys struggling in these other countries we go to, and we help them through their stuff because we can share our testimonies. Everywhere we go, they don't have to speak the language. We'll have interpreters. We have translators. And what we find is that guys struggle with the same stuff all around the world. It's the same big, issues. There's no difference in the struggles of American men and the struggles of Cuban men or Russian men or Chinese men. It doesn't matter. It's the same worldly junk that we struggle with. So when you have a team that knows how to get over that together, we go and we train other guys how to do it. And we also do, humanitarian aid efforts and stuff on the ground. But when the guys come off these mission trips, they always tell us some of the best times. The best thing about the trip was those nightly discussions. We go through the engage discussion questions that just opens guys' minds up. Like, wow, I've never thought about that way. Nobody's ever asked me that question. We get that all the time.
Sounds great. Well, if anyone wants to get more involved with Third Option Men, what do you recommend they do?
Just go to our site, thirdoptionmen.org. It's just thirdoptionmen.org. We have everything there. It's a daily devotional written by guys from all walks of life that are dealing with lots of different things. And I know it's changed my life. Having that group of guys, we don't have time for my personal testimony, but real quick, I drank my 20s away. I was a wreck. And I shared this on the platform last night. There was guys that would be carrying me into my house, just a wreck, a train wreck in human form. And now I have guys that are right beside me that I go and I help lift other guys out of that same, stuff. And you'll see, once you come out of something, God will bring guys that are going through the same stuff you used to go through to you all the time.
Right.
He orchestrates that, and it's awesome. So.
Sounds great. Well, thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
For listening.
All right.